really quick. Be David and not Saul. Be David and not Saul. What does that mean? Two individuals called to be king. The first king, the Lord said that he changed his heart. He changed his mind, right? He gave Saul everything that he needed to be king. Whatever Saul's mindset was before he became king, God anointed him and put a certain type of mindset in him so that Saul could be equipped to be king. Even though he told, the people who wanted a king what they were going to get, he still made sure that Saul had everything that he needed to move forward as a king. When we are introduced to Saul, about to be called to be king, we find him hiding. And what I find interesting about that is the fact that that was something that was highlighted, but it wasn't until this message came to me that you see something different. Saul was hiding. Saul was afraid. Saul didn't want to move forward. He was scared. He was scary to him. This assignment is intimidating. So it ain't like he went into it confident. He was hiding, and people found him hiding. As you continue to explore Saul, a lot of the disobedience that Saul ended up doing was out of fear, out of lack of confidence, out of lack of faith. Saul made decisions based on his rationale and not what God told him. And even though he had Samuel to continue to remind him of what he's supposed to do and how he's supposed to move, Saul still did what he felt he wanted to do. And ultimately, that not only cost Saul his life, it cost him his position. And it exposed more things about Saul that was so bad that even God said he repented making him king. So then after that, he says, I'm going to make my own king. And then we see David. David is defined as a man after God's own heart. He is not perfect. So much so that God knew he was going to make mistakes. And he said, even in his iniquities, I will show him favor and mercy. Because David was correctable. David accepted his wrongdoing, even in his wrong. I find it funny that when Nathan had to go and tell David a parable for David to understand that him killing Uriah because he was trying to cover up his infidelity with Bathsheba was just interesting to me, because in the midst of it, David didn't feel like he did nothing wrong. You didn't got this woman pregnant. You trying to make it seem like her husband got her pregnant. That didn't work. So then you kill the man. And David didn't think none of this was wrong until somebody brought a parable to him, and then he was like, well, who did it? And it was like, you. God would have given you whatever you asked for, and you took it upon yourself to take somebody else's wife. And all you had to do was ask. And then David was sorry about what he did. He was able to seek repentance. He was able to move forward in what he did. But the difference in what you're seeing between David and Saul is one was able to be redirected and corrected and accept accountability, and the other one continued to be disobedient, continued to do what he wanted to do, continued to rationale what he, felt was right. And even when things were just at its lowest, he still did not turn to God, but he continued to, and I'm talking about Saul, he continued to seek out the things that God considered was an abomination, making the situation worse for him. So God turned his back on you, but maybe you needed to sit in the silence for a minute. Maybe you needed to continue to go to him, and then eventually he'll listen. But instead, Saul continued to do things that was contrary to what God says to him. And because of that, again, Saul lost his kingdom, and then eventually he lost his life. David's disobedience may have cost him certain assignments. And his son Solomon, his redeemed baby, was the one that had to carry it on. But David was still blessed. Yes, there was chaos in his household for what he did, but David was still blessed. David still wore his king assignment well until he died. Though chaos in his kingdom, you still saw the favor of God moving through not only him, but through his family. And, the spoil grew with the wheat. So in saying all of that, be the David and not the Saul.